All right. Hey guys. Um, this is a new video for the next chapter in our text. This is all about the roaring 20s and the depressing 30s, meaning the 1920s and the 1930s. So what I'm going to do, I have some notes written down and I'm just going to go through them for you. And then I'm going to show you a few primary sources, and then I'm going to give you a link to a scene of a film from the 1920s just to kind of show you guys what movies were like about 100 years ago. Um, so, with that, this chapter is all about the roaring 1920s and the depressing 1930s. Um, So when you kind of look at this, the Roaring Twenties, well, what do we mean by the Roaring 1920s? The 1920s were a period of great prosperity. People were able to make a lot of money at this time, and there was also a rise in entertainment and free time. So the term roaring kind of is talking about parties and new music and movies, dancing, and much more that was going on. It was a good time to be alive. A lot of people were successful at this time, and they had a bunch of free time to do more leisure activities. I think we've talked about that word leisure before. But then after the 20s, there was this period called the Depressing 30s, and you've probably heard of this before. But America was in something called the Great Depression, and depressing or depression is kind of a word that means a form of sadness or being really down, and that was due to something called the stock market crash of 1929, and we'll go more into what that is in future lessons. But basically, the stock market crash led to big loss of money and jobs. So the Roaring Twenties was a kind of a high point where people were really happy and successful, and then it all came crashing down in the 1930s. Okay, so one important thing about the 1920s is that this is going to be a new term. This thing is called consumer culture. And if you know what a consumer is, me and you and our families, we are all consumers. And this is what that definition is. Uh, Consumer culture is pretty much the act of buying products that we want, and we use them up. Um, some examples are like buying the new iPhone or a new football. Those are all products that we want, and when we buy them, we use them for all that they're worth until they break, or until we find a better new looking version of that product, and we just throw away the old model and just go get a new one. And that's kind of what it means by consumer. A consumer is somebody who consumes or who gets something and then we just use it up. You might have heard of the word consume before, like in terms of eating, like when you eat maybe some chicken or something, you consume that and you use it up for all it's worth. You eat it, and you just use it up. That's kind of what that means. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this thing called a consumer culture. So in the 1920s, there were a number of different products that came out in the 1920s. Products such as a vacuum cleaner, dishwashers, an iron or an ironing board, and others were used or consumed because they made life easier. And I kind of want you to think about this for a little bit. You can pause the video here, but want you to think about everything that's in your house that makes your life easier. I'm kind of looking at my apartment, and I've got a dishwasher, I've got a microwave, I've got a stove, I've got electric lights, I've got a cell phone. Those are all products that I want, that make my life easier. Do I need those things? No, I don't. I don't need a cell phone. I don't need a dishwasher. I can communicate with people perfectly without using a cell phone. I can wash my dishes without an actual dishwasher. I don't need those things, but we buy them and we use them up because because they make life easier for us. And so you can kind of pause the video, and maybe you just want to take a look around at your home and just kind of identify some things that really make your life easier. But specifically in the 1920's, these were some of the things that people would buy because it would make everything in their life easier, and therefore they could have more time to do things that they wanted, maybe like going to the movies or going to see a play or stuff like that. There are other things that we consume or use which are entertainment. So examples would be like movies, plays, opera, vaudeville, radio. I've showed you a video of vaudeville before. But those are all different things that we consume, or we use them. We watch movies, we watch plays, we listen to the radio. Those are things that we use for our entertainment. There are some ways that there are some positive ways for entertainment, and I've written a few of them down here. Radio and movies allowed people to listen to watch professionals tell stories. People can go to the movie theater and just kind of listen. They don't have to wait for people to come to their village and kind of tell them stories. They can just go to a theater and pay for a ticket and just go watch it whenever they want. Another positive way is movies could be made to tell biblical stories, and also preachers could teach over the radio. With things like the radio, just think at how many people that you could reach out to and preach and tell them about the Bible because of the radio. My granddad had a Bible radio station for years back in the 60s and 70s, I believe. All right, but with that, there are some negative things about entertainment. Some negative ways to use entertainment. There's this thing called conservative Christians, and they thought material things and entertainment would distract people from doing spiritual pursuits and doing good works. You can imagine watching movies or playing Xbox or being on YouTube, and those are things that might waste your time. There are more important things that you could be doing, like doing chores or doing homework or helping out other people. And so conservative Christians, they are people that thought, well, the entertainment is just going to distract you from doing what's important. And also another negative way of entertainment is violence and wrongdoing are in movies and plays, and they depict bad things in movies that Christians probably shouldn't be watching. So I'm gonna stop the video right here, and I'll pick up with another video.